Annotation objects consist of those elements that are not part of the actual geometry you are creating, but rather are added to the drawing to provide additional information. Annotation objects include things such as text, tables, fields, hatch patterns, and multileaders. Dimensions also represent a special type of annotation object, and sometimes blocks and attributes are used as annotation objects. For example, after creating a drawing, you will typically add dimensions to indicate the size of the objects you have drawn. You also add text to provide additional information about those objects. Text can consist of a single line of characters, single line text, or multiple lines and paragraphs, multi-line text. You can also create tables, which organize annotations into columns and rows. The data in a table can be added manually or imported and even linked to external data such as from an Excel spreadsheet. Multileaders, which consist of a line or spline with an arrowhead at one end and text or a symbol at the other, are often used to label specific items. Fields are a special type of text that display information derived from the drawing, such as the area of an object or the date the drawing was created, and update automatically as changes occur. Hatch patterns and gradient fills are another way to convey information in a drawing. They fill closed areas with a solid color or a repetitive pattern of lines, often using standard patterns to represent specific types of materials, such as brick or steel. In addition to these obvious annotation objects, drawings often include elements that represent objects like electrical receptacles and switches, or symbols such as section and detail callouts used to reference other drawings. These are often created as blocks that are then inserted into the drawing. Other blocks representing actual objects, such as doors or mechanical equipment, may contain attributes that automatically label these objects when they are inserted into a drawing. In addition to appearing in the drawing, attribute data can also be extracted to create a table or saved to an external file. Each type of annotation object, text, dimensions, tables, multileaders, hatches, blocks, and attributes, has its own tools for creating and modifying them. The appearance of some types of annotation objects, such as text, dimensions, tables, and multileaders, is controlled by predefined styles. If you make changes to the style definition, all the objects created using that style immediately update. In most cases, you can also modify or override the appearance of individual annotation objects by changing specific properties. Unlike the lines, arcs, and circles used to represent geometry within a drawing, which should always be drawn full size, when adding annotation objects to a drawing, you need to consider the scale at which the drawing will be printed. The approach used to calculate the size of annotation objects depends on whether those objects are placed in model space or on a paper space layout. When annotation objects are created in model space, you must consider the drawing or plot scale if plotting from model space, or the viewport scale if plotting from a paper space layout. The text height or scale of an annotation object in model space can be set to a fixed text height, or it can be controlled by assigning the object an annotation scale. Annotation objects created in model space and assigned a fixed text height remain proportionate in size to the current viewport scale and will appear larger or smaller in size if you subsequently print the drawing at a different scale than you anticipated. For example, when created using a fixed height, text that should be 1/8 inch high when printed at a scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot will be twice as high if you print the drawing at 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. Annotation objects created with their annotative property enabled, however, will automatically adjust based on the current annotation scale, so that the objects remain the same size. For example, when you create annotative text that is supposed to be 1/8 inch high when printed, it will remain 1/8 inch high regardless of the scale at which the drawing is printed. If you change the scale of the drawing, the text height changes automatically. Similarly, when blocks used as symbols are defined as annotative objects, they remain the same size regardless of the scale of the drawing. So an annotative electrical receptacle block will always appear as a 1/8 inch diameter circle, regardless of the scale of the drawing. This becomes less of an issue when you create annotation objects directly on a paper space layout, however, since layouts are typically printed at a scale of 1:1. So 1/8 inch high text created on a layout will always be 1/8 inch high when printed, unless you print the layout at a scale other than 1:1.